Before there were pharaohs, before there were pyramids, there was a river. Every year the Nile flooded, and every year it brought life back to the sand. Civilizations don't begin with kings, they begin with survival. For centuries, Egypt wasn't one nation, it was two, Upper and Lower Egypt, divided by the river. Until one man decided division was no longer enough. Nama united Upper and Lower Egypt into a single kingdom and declared himself its living god. A new civilization was born, one that would write its story in stone for 3,000 years. To prove that power, Egypt's kings built monuments no one had ever dared imagine. These weren't just kings. To their people, they were gods walking on earth. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built as a stairway for a god king to ascend to the heavens. Egypt didn't just build monuments, it built eternity. But no empire stays still, and Egypt's story was only just beginning. What came next would take Egypt from stone monuments to a golden age of gods, gold, and conquest. What gets me about Nama's invasion wasn't just the political aspect, it was the idea of a new nation, 5,000 years, long before anyone even dared to imagine it. Empires don't fall all at once. First, they crack. Egypt fractured. Rival rulers fought for a throne that no longer meant what it used to. But Egypt had a habit of rising from its own ashes. Trade returned, art flourished, and Egypt rebuilt itself stronger than before. Then came an age of expansion. Egypt would no longer just defend its borders. A woman named Hatshepsut took the throne and ruled not as a queen but as a king. Her reign brought peace, prosperity, and trade expeditions the world had never seen. Her successor, Thutmose III, had bigger ambitions: conquest. Under his rule, Egypt's empire stretched further than ever before, from Nubia in the south to Syria in the north. Then came a pharaoh who shattered everything Egypt believed in. He abolished Egypt's ancient gods and declared only one god should be worshipped: the sun itself. His death left the throne to a child, Tutankhamun, who quietly undid it all. He ruled only a few short years, but became one of history's most famous names. Then rose the pharaoh who wanted to be remembered above all others, Ramses II. He didn't just win wars, he carved his legacy into mountains. Temples rose across the land, each one louder than the last, declaring Egypt's glory to gods themselves. For a moment, Egypt stood as the greatest power the world had ever known. But golden ages, like flood seasons, never last forever. Hatshepsut has to be 100% my favorite part of this entire story because she ruled Egypt for the longest and for the safest, better than most other pharaohs, and yet history almost erased her. For centuries, the Nile never failed Egypt. Then one year, it did. Poor harvest meant empty granaries. Empty granaries meant a hungry, restless kingdom. From across the sea came a new kind of threat, the ones history would simply call the Sea Peoples. Egypt held the lines barely, but the cost of victory was steep. The wars drained the treasury. But slowly, another power began to rise inside the palace walls. The priests of Ammon grew richer than the pharaohs they served, until Egypt effectively had two crowns. A single kingdom, never once united 1,000 years earlier, began to split apart again. From the south, Nubian kings marched in, not as invaders, but as conquerors who admired Egypt so much. They crowned themselves its pharaohs. For a while, foreign rulers wore Egypt's crown, proof the kingdom no longer controlled its own throne. Then came the Assyrians, an empire with iron weapons and no patience for Egypt's fading glory. Cities that once stood untouched for 1,000 years finally learned what conquest felt like. Monuments built to last forever began to crumble, not for time alone, but from neglect. Egypt was still Egypt, but it was no longer in control of its own story. The river that gave birth to Egypt now watched silently as the kingdom it created began to slip away. But the greatest challenge to Egypt's throne wasn't coming from the south or the east, it was coming from across the Mediterranean. Now, this is the part most people skip in school. Egypt did not fall to one invasion. It cracked slowly from the inside for centuries. In 525 BCE, a new empire arrived, the Persians. And for the first time, Egypt became someone else's province. Egyptian gods still stood, but Egyptian kings no longer ruled. Egypt fought back, and briefly, native pharaohs reclaimed the crown, but the world outside was changing faster than Egypt could keep up. Then in 332 BCE, a conqueror from Macedonia swept through the region, and Egypt surrendered without a fight. He founded a new city on Egypt's coast, one that would outlive his empire and outlive Egypt itself. After his death, his generals divided the empire. One of them took Egypt and started a new dynasty of Greek pharaohs. For nearly 300 years, Egypt was ruled by foreigners wearing Egyptian crowns, Greek kings playing pharaohs. Alexandria became the greatest center of knowledge in the ancient world, even as Egypt's own identity quietly faded. The last of these Greek pharaohs was a queen unlike any before her, brilliant, fluent in Egyptian, and utterly determined to keep her kingdom free. She allied herself with Rome's most powerful men, betting Egypt's survival on a dangerous game of politics and power. But when war broke out between Rome's rivals, she chose the losing side and paid for it with everything. Rome's armies arrived and Egypt's independence, after 3,000 years, came to an end. Rather than be paraded through Rome in chains, the last pharaoh chose to end her life on her own terms. With her death, ancient Egypt, the civilization of pharaohs, pyramids and gods, ceased to exist as an independent nation. The river that gave birth to Egypt was still there. It simply had a new empire to answer to. Cleopatra gets to be seen as this tragic romantic figure, but yet she's a brilliant political independent strategist whose main goal was to keep her country independent. Ancient Egypt fell over 2,000 years ago, but some things refused to disappear. Every year, millions of people travel across the world just to stand where pharaohs once stood. For centuries, no one could read what Egypt left behind. The language of the pharaohs had gone silent. Then in 1799, a group of soldiers digging near the town of Rosetta found something unexpected. A single stone carved with the same message in 3 different scripts. It was the key no one knew they were missing. It took over 20 years of study before one scholar finally cracked the code and gave Egypt its voice back. Suddenly, 3,000 years of history could finally be read again. Today, Egypt's treasures sit in museums across the world, reminders of a civilization that once ruled with unmatched power. Modern Egypt grew up right beside its ancient self, a nation living in the shadow of its own legend. The river is still there, it still floods, it still gives life. Some things really don't change. Egypt's kings believed they did build something eternal. In a way, they were right. The pharaohs are gone, the empire is gone. But 3,000 years later, the world still can't stop looking up at what they left behind.